The world's oldest epic is the Epic of Gilgamesh from ancient Mesopotamia, dating back to around 2100 BC. The world's longest epic is the Mahabharata by Vyasa and is one of the two great epics of India, along with the Ramayana by Valmiki. The greatest European epic and the most widely known worldwide is the Iliad, the epic of the Trojan War by the ancient Greek poet Homer, along with the Odyssey, the epic adventures of Odysseus or Ulysses. The Trojan War was a war between the Achaeans and the Trojans after Paris of Troy seized Queen Helen from her husband, King Menelaus of Sparta. The war is one of the most important events in Greek mythology and is told through many Greek works, the most prominent of which are Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. The Iliad tells the final years of the siege of Troy, while the Odyssey describes Odysseus's journey home. Other parts of the war are described in epic poems, including the Cypria, the Aethiopis, the Iliad Minor, the Eleupersis, the Nostoi, and the Telegony, of which only a few survive. The Trojan War was an important source of material for Greek poets and tragic writers such as Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides. Roman poets, especially Virgil and Ovid, also drew from the Trojan War as the basis or content of their works. The war originated in a quarrel between the goddesses Athena, Hera, and Aphrodite. After Eris, goddess of strife and discord, gave a golden apple, sometimes known as the Apple of Discord, to the fairest one, Zeus sent the three goddesses to Paris, who decided that Aphrodite, the fairest one, should receive the apple in exchange. Aphrodite charmed Helen, the most beautiful woman in the world and wife of King Menelaus, into falling in love with Paris, who took her to Troy. Agamemnon, king of Mycenae and brother of King Menelaus, Helen's husband, led an army of Achaeans to Troy and besieged it for 10 years. After the deaths of many heroes, including Achilles and Ajax for the Achaeans and Hector and Paris for the Trojans, Troy was slain by the Trojan horse. The Achaeans killed the Trojans, except for some women and children who were spared or sold into slavery, and destroyed their temples, angering the gods. Only a few Achaeans returned home safely, and many settled on distant coasts. The Romans later traced their lineage to Aeneas, one of the Trojans, who is said to have led the remaining Trojans to modern-day Italy. The ancient Greeks believed that the Trojan War was a historical event that occurred in the 13th or 12th century BC, and that Troy was located in modern-day Turkey. Near the Dardanelles Strait, in modern times, most people believe that both the war and Troy are fictional legends. However, in 1868, the German archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann met Frank Calvert, who convinced Schliemann that Troy was a real place, located in Izarek, Turkey, and that Schliemann had taken over Calvert's excavations on Calvert's property. 1. The question of whether there was any historical truth behind the Trojan War remains unanswered. Many scholars believe that the story has a kernel of historical truth, although this could mean that Homer's account is a mix of Mycenaean Greek tales of sieges and expeditions during the Bronze Age. Those who believe that the Trojan War story is based on a specific historical conflict often date it to the 12th or 11th century BC, which is consistent with the archaeological evidence of the burning of Troy. The cause of the war: the will of Zeus, the judgment of Paris. The Judgment of Paris, 1904, by Erica Simone. The god Zeus learned of a prophecy from the goddess Themis, or Prometheus, who had been released from captivity in the Caucasus by Heracles, that he would be overthrown by his own son, as he had overthrown his father Cronus. Another prophecy was that the sea nymph Thetis, with whom he had fallen in love, would give birth to a son more virtuous than his father. For this reason Thetis was sent to be the wife of a mortal king, Peleus, son of Achaeans, by the order of Hera, his wife who had raised Thetis. All the gods were invited to the wedding of Peleus and Thetis, and they brought many gifts, except for Eris, the goddess of strife, who was not invited and forbidden from entering by order of Zeus. 6. Eris, angry and humiliated, threw the golden apple she had brought into the feast, inscribed with the words to the fairest on it. The three goddesses of Olympus, Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite, all claimed ownership of the apple, and argued heatedly, but neither god would agree to decide which goddess was the most beautiful. Eventually, Zeus ordered Hermes to bring the three goddesses to Paris, the prince of Troy. Paris was unaware of his origins, having been raised as a shepherd boy on Mount Ida, and it was prophesied that this child would bring down Troy. One day, after Paris had washed himself in the springs of Mount Ida, the three goddesses appeared to him, naked. However, Paris could not decide the winner, so the goddesses used bribery. Athena offered to make Paris wiser and more skilled in war than any other warrior. Hera offered political power and the right to rule over all of Asia, and Aphrodite offered the love of the most beautiful woman in the world, Helen of Sparta. Paris agreed to give the apple. The golden apple was given to Aphrodite. After that, Paris went on an adventure and returned to Troy. The most beautiful woman in the world at that time was Helen, who already had a husband. Venus helped Paris travel to Sparta, and Paris immediately fell in love with Helen. The kidnapping took place with the help of Venus, and the Trojan War began. Peleus and Thetis gave birth to a son and named him Achilles. It was prophesied that if Achilles did not die of old age and was unknown, he would die young on the battlefield, but poets would sing his heroic deeds so that they would be famous forever. Later, when Achilles was 9 years old, Calchas, Agamemnon's great astrologer, prophesied that to conquer Troy, it was necessary to rely on Achilles' strength. Many legends from various sources state that Thetis, the mother, tried to make Achilles invulnerable while he was still a baby. Some legends say that she held her son over a fire every night to burn away his mortal parts and rub him with nectar, or the meal of the god Ambrosia during the day. Such an act would be tantamount to killing his son at night and reviving him during the day. When Peleus saw this, he ordered him to stop. Another legend says that Thetis took Achilles to bathe in the river Styx that flows through the underworld, to become invulnerable. But because she held her son's ankle, this part of his body was not exposed to water, did not receive immortality, and could not withstand attacks, which is the origin of the term Achilles' heel, meaning weak point, etc. Achilles grew up to become the most courageous warrior among men. Thetis, his mother, fearing the prophecy of Calchas, hid her son on the island of Skyros at the palace of King Lycomedes, dressing him like a girl. But Odysseus used his wits to trick Achilles into revealing himself.